everyone, it is time for a brand new round of box office predictions, and as always, I'm excited. I'm especially excited today because we are in the thick of summer season, which means we have another big release hitting theaters this weekend, Aladdin. But before we even get there, we got some Fantasy Movie League recapping to do because we finally had some perfect lineups in the predictions with Perri League. Actually, we had 4 of them, and they went to Devil, Magic XXX13 Cineplex, Radio Rob 123 Cineplex, and the Force A Nathans. Congratulations on the perfect lineups, guys, and an extra congratulations for finally breaking the non-perfect lineup predictions with Perri streak that was going on there. I'm glad we've got some perfect lineups in the mix this time around. Speaking of a perfect lineup, I at least went 5 for 5 of my rankings last week. My numbers were a little off in some cases, especially when it came to John Wick. But you know what? When my numbers are off, I want them to be off this way because John Wick 3 wound up exceeding expectations, topping the charts with a franchise best, a weekend one total of $56.8 million. Avengers Endgame came in at number 2, making another $30 million. After that, we had Detective Pikachu. Very happy to report that I was spot on with that one, which made about $25.1 million in its second weekend in theaters. A Dog's Journey didn't have the hottest start, took the 4th spot with $8 million. And then lastly, at number 5, as predicted, it was The Hustle with $6.1 million. All right, it's time to get into that new round of predictions now. But before I even jump into my number 5 pick, I have to let you know that Booksmart did not crack my top 5, and it saddens me. If I was going with my heart in these box office predictions and not trying to get it right, Booksmart would be in the mix, if not at number 1. But based on how ticket sales are looking right now, I think it's going to get bumped off the list, and it's a shame. So I'm going to take this opportunity to tell you guys one more time, do not miss Booksmart. It is a very special movie. And another disclaimer here before I roll into my 5 pick. Keep in mind, these are 3-day picks. We're going into a long weekend, but my final numbers are for the 3-day runs, not the full 4-day run, although I'll probably include some of those in the mix here. But that all being said, number 5 this time around, it's going to Brightburn. This one has always seemed like a little bit of a toss-up to me. I don't view it as a crowd pleaser, but I do think the dark spin on the superhero origin story is going to draw a crowd. The first movies I wound up looking at here were the Kick-Ass movies. I don't think this has any chance of matching the first Kick-Ass, but Kick-Ass 2 opened up with $13 million, and that seems like a possible ceiling for Brightburn here. It is a really risky move to make an R-rated superhero movie, especially when you spend too much. Like, let's say Hellboy, which only opened up with $12 million, had a reported budget of something like $50 million. Clearly, it didn't work in that movie's favor, but with Brightburn, the reported production budget is $6 million. And when you consider the fact that this movie has some great craftsmanship, storytelling, character journeys, I think the odds are working in this one's favor to do a little better based on what it costs to actually make it. And given how ticket sales look right now, and given how they've looked throughout the week, I just have a feeling that this one has a chance of popping maybe to $10 million for the 3-day run, and then let's go with the $13 million for its full Memorial Day weekend run. All right, moving on to number 4 now. That is where I have Detective Pikachu. I'm going back to that Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles comparison for this one because it seems as though the two have kind of leveled out. With Ninja Turtles in weekend 2, it fell 56.5% and made $28.5 million, while Pikachu wound up dropping 53.8% and making $25 million. Looking at weekend 3 now for Ninja Turtles, that percent change came all the way down to 41.4%, and I actually think that that could happen with Detective Pikachu. Its only big competition in weekend 3 of its run was If I Stay, so clearly Ninja Turtles didn't have Aladdin-sized competition, but again, it's a holiday weekend. We're going to see minimal drops across the board, which is making me think that Pikachu could possibly repeat that 41% drop, and if that's what winds up happening, it's going to put another $15 million in the bank for the 3-day run, and then maybe $20 million for the full 4. Now we're moving over to number 3, and that is where I have Avengers Endgame. Oddly enough, the weekend 4 drop for both Infinity War and Endgame was exactly the same. They both dropped 52.6%, and then on top of that, both of them that weekend had made a very similar amount of money. Endgame made about $30 million, and then Infinity War made about $29.5 million. Now factor in both movies have their weekend 5s falling on Memorial Day weekend. looking at Infinity War and what it was up against that weekend, it was Solo, a Star Wars story. So given the fact that I think Aladdin will be a somewhat similar amount of competition for Endgame, why not go with the exact same percent change all over again, which would mean that I'm giving Avengers Endgame a 41% drop. That would give it about $18 million over the course of the 3-day run, and then $23 million for the full holiday weekend. Now for my number 2 pick, that's where I've got John Wick Chapter 3, Parabellum. This movie nearly doubled John Wick 2's opening total, so I might need a different comp here, but it's worth keeping in mind that John Wick 2 dropped 46.7% in its second weekend of release. Let's shift over to a movie that had a more similar opening weekend total and look at Taken 2. That one opened up with $50 million, and then weekend 2, it fell 55.8%. The thing is, though, when I factor in Memorial Day weekend and also that A- cinema score for John Wick Chapter 3, I've just got a feeling that it's going to perform better than Taken 2, maybe find a middle ground between the percent change for Taken 2 and John Wick 2, let's say about 50% even. And then if that's what happens, John Wick Chapter 3 is going to make another $28 million for the 3-day weekend and then $35 million for the full 4-day run. And that, of course, brings us to our top spot for the weekend, and it's going to the latest Disney live-action adaptation. It's Aladdin. This is going to be an interesting one this weekend because on the one hand, I think it's got a lot of built-in love from the original animated movie, but of course, the marketing campaign spread a good deal of negative buzz, but then reviews started to come in, and they do kind of teeter positive, so that's working in its favor now. When I'm comparing it to other Disney live-action adaptations, I don't think Aladdin has any chance at catching something like Beauty and the Beast or Jungle Book. But don't worry, we're gonna revisit the $100 million plus possibilities when Lion King comes out later this summer. What are the more reasonable comps for Aladdin, though, could be Maleficent and Cinderella, both of which came close to cracking $70 million at the box office. Originally, I was eyeing something like $60 million for Aladdin's 3-day run, but given the fact that I quite like the movie, and I know a bunch of other people who did also, I think there's going to be some good word of mouth here, maybe boosting it to $65 million for the 3-day run, and then $80 million for the full 4-day weekend. All right, that brings us to the recap portion of our show. We've got Aladdin topping the charts with $65 million for the 3-day weekend. Then John Wick Chapter 3 Parabellum coming in at number 2 with $28 million. Avengers Endgame taking the 3 spot with $18 million. Then it's Detective Pikachu at number 4 with $15 million. And finally, Brightburn earning $10 million for the 3-day weekend in the 5 position. All right, guys, that is it for me, but now it is your turn. Hit that comment section below. I do want to know your predictions, especially for Aladdin and also Brightburn and Booksmart as well. And you know what? If you see any of those movies, tell me what you think about them in the comments below as well. And before I say goodbye, we've got a bunch of Patreon shout-outs to give. I've got 6 individuals on the list today who I know very well through some G-chats. They're great, a great group right here. They are Caleb, Rosa, Ryan, Michael, Kavi, and Ian. For 5 of you, you've been in the mix for a long, long time now, and I can't thank you enough. But another welcome back to Rosa. It was so nice to see your name pop up on the list. Happy to have you back. If you want to join the Patreon campaign also, here's a link right at the bottom of the screen right now. Go check it out. Have some fun in that community. It's a great group of people over there. A huge thanks to everybody out there watching this video. Don't forget to like and share, and I'll see you next week for some more box office predictions.